Greetings, everyone. This is Yoftahe Mulatu from Boston, Massachusetts, from the Yoftahe Show. We are live today on Facebook and YouTube Live. Thank you for joining us. We have our Use Mindset series, and I have two youths that are joining us, and then I have Leneé that's going to be our special guest for tonight. So once again, for all of you who are watching, please make sure to share, comment, like. Any questions that you have, we'll be able to answer in the middle and then at the end. So once again, today, the topic is limitless is your potential, magnificent is your future. All of us have set in based on our education, family background, what limits that we can reach. And most of the time we have been our own worst enemy. Today, we're going to discuss about what success means, the struggles we have to go through, the price we have to pay in order to be successful, and then all of us enjoy the American dream. So once again, thank you very much for being here. Leneé, it's an honor having you on the Yoftahe Show. And then if I can get you started a little bit, introduce about yourself, then I'll go to Jerry, and then I'll go to Eliajah.
Absolutely. It's an honor to be here, Yoftahe. Hi, Jerry. Hi, Eliajah. So glad to meet you all. Hi.
Hi. It's a pleasure to meet you as well.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise.
And then, so, Leneé, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself, and short, we'll be going deep more about your life today. So, but at least as an introduction, who you are, what you do, and then I'll go to Jerry and then Eliajah after that.
Absolutely. I'll be happy to. I'm Leneé Cook-Braxton. I am the founder and CEO of Holistic Performance Center. I'm also the writer for the LA Tribune, a senior columnist, as a matter of fact. I, in addition to that, am a doctoral candidate of mind-body medicine with Saybrook University. I also teach adjunct and am a teaching fellow through the Mind-Body Medicine program and teach a Mind-Body-Spirit integration seminar, as well as I have a podcast called The Mindful Business Renegades, and we were just ranked 38th in Norway.
Thank you. Yeah. It's an honor to have you in here, Leneé. Jerry,
good to be here. And I'm a mom of a teenager as well.
There you go. That's the most important one, actually.
Yeah, most important.
So, and then Jerry, if you can introduce yourself, your age, and then.
Yeah. So my official name is Jerusalem Assefa. I am a recent graduate from the University of North Texas. I'm 4 years old. UNT, yes, alumni. I graduated with my degree in communication studies. Right now, I work as a project coordinator. So it's a little bit about me. I do part-time on the radio as well for our community here. I'm very active in church and, serving my community as much as I can. And I'm very excited to be here. And thank you, Yoftahe, for having me on your show again.
That's right. Jerry, this is like almost like the third or fourth time on the show. So you are like family here.
I love it.
So thank you. And then I have a special guest today that I had to really beg to get a no-show, I guess. So this is my firstborn, my pride that I have on this channel. This is my son, Eliajah Gebru. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and he's graduating this year. So I'm going to let you talk.
Hello, everybody. My name is Eliajah Gebru. I also go by Elias, my Amharic name. I'm currently a senior at UMass Lowell studying Spanish, French, Portuguese, Italian. I just also graduated with my emergency medical technician's license. So soon I'm hoping to combine those two passions one way or another. But yeah, I graduate this May, and I'm just happy to be here. So thank you, Abayi. Thank you, Dad. So
thank you. I like that. It's an honor having my son here. So all of you too. So okay, so tonight we're going to talk about for the Use Mindset series, just like what the real life looks like. What after college, what kind of things that we have to go through. And then sometimes when people look at successful people, they just look only the end product result. They don't see what people have to go through. So Leneé, if I can start with you a little bit, for those who are joining us, This is the Yoftahe Show. We are live on YouTube and Facebook Live. Please make sure to share and like, and let us know also where you're watching from, so that we will be able to say thank you, and then answer also a few questions at the end. So,
Absolutely.
Leneé, I'm going to come back to you and then say, to whatever success that you have right now, they were at some point, you went in some kind of struggle that you say, what helped you to say, this is not enough for me, I need to go through it? What helped you jump in that hurdle? So if you can share a little bit about what that struggle is and talk about what helped you to jump to the next step, I guess.
Sure. So my evolved self, myself now, where I am now, I say there are no struggles or obstacles, only opportunities and lessons in life. And I'd have to say, throughout my life, there have been a number of opportunities that may have come in the form of struggles. For example, when I heard Jerry or Jerusalem say that she was 24 years old, a time reminded me of when I was 24 years old and diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I was actually paralyzed on the left side of my body. And as a trained classical dancer and the first African American captain for the Carolina Panthers cheerleading squad, as the first and a trained dancer and NFL cheerleader, being paralyzed on your left side at 24 years old can be extremely devastating. That was a huge obstacle. Now I see as an opportunity in my life, because going through that then led me to holistic wellness and holistic medicine. And that has been the path of my life to healing, as well as my journey to my profession also. So it was a gift. At the time, it may not have seemed like it at 24, but it definitely was a gift, although it was definitely an obstacle at the time.
I like that. I think I'm going to try to build on that. And some people may look at it as a struggle, and some people look at it as an opportunity. There's a big difference on how your mindset is going to react that, and then what you're going to do, because at the end, it's not like they say, it's not what happened to you, it's what happened in you and what you take. So
May I add something to that, actually?
Say what again?
May I add something to that as well?
Of course.
Told me, and as we evolved, it isn't necessarily what happens to you. So the first step of evolution when you're evolving spiritually, mind, body, and spirit, is it may happen to you. Then as you take that opportunity and you shift the energy into a positive experience and only a lesson, then something is happening through you, because then you are serving humanity through your purpose. And then as you elevate and evolve even more and become one with spirit, then it is happening of you.
I like those stuff, the way you described it. We're going to have you repeat it again more on that.
Absolutely.
So go back to that question. So it's a big transition. It's a big understanding. It's a big mindset for me. Someone to say versus struggle, opportunity. So if you can divulge more on that, what's the difference, or how did you arrive to that?
Absolutely. Well, guys, we were just talking about school. So going back to just physics and thinking about energy, everything is energy. We are energy. Everything, money is energy. The world around us is all energy. And it's about transitioning and shifting that energy, which has a big impact on our mindset. And when you think of things in that way, it gives us the power and it empowers us to actually choose how we shift our energy. Now, it's a daily choice. So for instance, let's say you're going in the car and you all are in Massachusetts. And so to go through traffic sometimes can be a bit of an ordeal. So if someone cuts your car off, or let's say you get in a fender bender, unfortunately, or something happens to kind of rock your day, you can take it as, well, I can't believe this is happening to me. Or you can see it as you were actually spared. You're still here. You're still alive. So this is happening through you because you live to tell your story of what happened. And as a result, someone else may say, oh, something like that happened to me. I almost went that route. And perhaps something worse could have even happened. So it's using everything that you were given, all the cards you're dealt from a mind, body, and spirit perspective to actually elevate yourself and those in the world, ultimately. And so it's definitely a mindset shift because it's easy as human beings to think, oh, why is this happening to me? Why am I going through this? What if, what if, what if? Well, what if not? It's what we're dealt, right?
That's right.
So you can choose, you have a choice, either to make the best of it or not to. It's as simple as that. Yeah.
I like that. I know my son's shaking his head while we're talking about this because he just had a car accident.
Yeah. Well, so two things actually.
Okay.
So first of all, right, with the car accident, the moment the ambulance rolled me into the ER, the doctor, I told them, everybody, that I had my EMT license, and they were like, now that you've gone through this, you can understand your patients. And I'm like, yup. So I see what you're saying there.
Yeah.
But the reason that part of the reason that I got into EMT in the first place is because I have Tourette syndrome.
Okay.
So I want to be able to, well, through that, I'm able to understand my patients in a way that other medical professionals, for the most part, aren't able to. So for that reason, I just want to be able to help. Like I just said, I want to be able to help patients in a way that other people aren't able to. So I see where you're coming from.
I love that. Eliajah, could you do me a favor? Could you tell me a little bit more about the diagnosis you were given of Tourette syndrome? And I will explain to you why I'm phrasing it that way. You mentioned I have Tourette syndrome. Tell me about the diagnosis that was given to you of Tourette syndrome.
Well, I mean, I was diagnosed back in 5th grade.
Okay.
But basically, you're saying back then, or just like generally what it is?
Symptoms, or how it manifests for you in your body.
Well, so right now it varies day to day, but for the most part, right now you might see me go just with my face. But what Tourette syndrome is you have various uncontrollable body movements, for one, and B, uncontrollable noises. So for me, you'll see me just move my arms a lot. You'll see me jump.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll whistle, hum, cough. Yeah. So I mean, it ranges. No 2 days are the same, but
yeah. Well, I'm asking you that because my daughter also was given the same diagnosis. And I want to say to you, you being such a beautiful example for younger kids and those after you, it is in fact going to be something that charts your path and is a big part of your future. And thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that because it definitely, you are an inspiration. And I'm just really proud of you for being able to articulate how that manifests in your body. And I want to clarify that diagnosis does not define you. It was just something that was given to you.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that. So you all have questions. So Jerry, you want to jump in and say anything?
I forgot all about my question. I was so in the moment. It just took such a big turn in every direction.
I know.
It was, that just made me so happy to hear. And you just, everybody just, I think there's a reason why we're all kind of brought in, and I believe that each of our stories kind of align. And it's just crazy how, with your daughter and Eliajah, just kind of, I was just like, wow, everything lines up. But Thank you for both of you, Eliajah, for sharing that, because it really is an inspiration. You could see how your dad's passion kind of comes from you a little bit, if I can say that, just because I think you give him a lot of motivation as well. So I think it's just beautiful to see from the outside. But my question, you talked about getting that moment when you were 25, kind of hearing that news, of being paralyzed. I think it was on the right side, if I'm not mistaken.
Left.
Left side. Okay, left side. Walk me through how that was, because I think now when you talk about it, I think you can really explain, the shift in your mindset. But oftentimes for us as youth, in that moment, we can't see the future, and it's so hard for us to really say we're gonna get out of it. So how did you respond in your life when that happened?
I'll have to say, and the reason I mentioned my background in dance and as a professional cheerleader is that because I used my body, being a mover, physicality is a huge part, an athlete, it's a huge part of my life. So being forced, if you will, or humbled to the least common denominator of movement, paralyzed in the bed, having to learn how to walk again, going through rehab, all of that, an inpatient rehab facility, that takes you to a place mentally that you have those two choices. You have those two choices of either staying there and not getting up again, which quite honestly, there were a couple of days that I felt that way. Just being real. My daughter says, no one says keeping it real anymore, but just keeping it real. There were a couple of days that I felt that way. However, the other choice came to me, and this was through spirit. I happen to believe in God, whether it's God, Allah, Buddha, whomever you believe in. I believe there's room for all of our beliefs. I happen to believe in God, and I believe there was a time that God showed me, you have to get up because there's more work for you to do. And had I not gotten up, I wouldn't be here talking to you all now. I teach movement for a living. I'm a somatic movement therapist as well. Haven't had a chance to talk very much about my company, Holistic Performance Center. But at the time, it was not of me. It was of he. And so I really have to say that I take no credit for being able to see it as an opportunity. It was all God. It really was. And me listening to that voice, that small, still voice, which I'll have to say to you, sometimes it takes and requires being still and also shutting out distractions. We didn't have social media back then. I definitely know we didn't have a smartphone. And as my daughter says, because wasn't it super boring? Well, in a way, but it allowed us. Hi, they're laughing at us, our generation.
We had it better. So
the reality is, while reading or listening to music, which was not on an app, what were those, back then? So I had the ability to go inward. And so to answer your question, Jerry, which is a very good question, I had no choice but to go inward and rely on God and have him help me through it. And that was the mindset shift. It wasn't of me. Again, it was of he, for sure. Yeah. But it's hard. It's hard. You're going through it. I remember, the devastation of going through something like that, or I've talked to others who have been through, similar things or worse, actually. Oh, another thing as well. I had a friend, and Eliajah, you speaking of being an EMT. It's interesting because I have another friend who's a nurse at the time. We went to college together. And what helped at the time, I didn't realize why she was doing it, but one of her patients was actually quadriplegic. And she was paralyzed from the neck down. pretty much on assisted breathing, fed with a feeding tube. Until this day, he was one of the most joyous people that I've ever met in my life. So when I was in the hospital bed, she had him come in his wheelchair with his wife, and that helped me put things in perspective. And that was a choice as well, because I could have said, I don't see that correlation, but instead it made me even more grateful. Yeah.
Thank you. I like that. I like the way the conversation is going.
Yeah, my pleasure. And that's how I work, intuitively. And I believe that everything is spirit-led. And so there are no coincidences from the correlation with Eliajah's experience or Jerry, the question you're asking. And I know you're going somewhere because I can see the wheels turning in your brilliant mind. So let's keep flowing.
Let's go. Let's go. For those who are joining, thank you for being here. You're watching the Yoftahe Show on YouTube Live and Facebook Live. Please make sure to share, ask questions, and we are very happy to have you here. So, Leneé, let me come back. I mean, on your website, on from everything that you're teaching, one of the word, or two of the words actually, I would like to combine and talk about is limitless and potential. And then with everything that you just described about, for someone to be able to understand, it's echoes somewhere, the limitless that we're talking about, if I can share a little bit more on that, what does that mean for you when you use the word limitless? Sorry. Limitless, what does limitless mean to you? And then the potential, because all the time we all have so many potentials, but because if we don't practice it, we don't experience it, and then we don't really use it on a daily basis. Like you said, it's a daily conscious activity that we have to do. So if you can combine those two words, what it means, how you pick them. So limitless and potential, whenever you hear that, what does that mean to you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's an excellent question, Yoftahe. I believe that we all are limitless. And as I mentioned before, my faith allows me to believe that. And we all are born into this earth to achieve different things and to serve the world. I've heard before that your service is the rent that you pay for being on this earth. I'm probably misquoting the quote, but it's something to that effect. And, that makes us limitless, that we all start being born at the same place from our mothers. And because of that, we can do anything. We really can. And the human body has an innate ability to heal itself. It really does. And also, anything that we put our minds to, we can achieve. It's as simple as that. We as humans, we complicate that a bit, but that's why I say limitless, because there is no limit. There truly isn't. There may be obstacles. That's a difference, but there really is no limit. And then as far as potential goes, back to what I was saying, at birth, potentiality is our birthright. When we're born, everyone has a clean slate. Now we can get granular or go, into the details of maybe socioeconomic status or resources. And then, no, I agree. The playing field is not even there by any means around the world. However, when you think of the human experience, that in and of itself is potentiality. So it means at some point in life, there will be an opportunity for us to succeed. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you one more question, and then Jerry, I'll come to you to ask your question. Then Eliajah, I'll go to that. So one of the things, as people, we have what I call our spiritual side, call it the financial side, or strengths in anything. So we have different kind of, in order to be complete, being able to understand our inner self, with our soul, our body, and connections, because you talk a lot about that. So for someone to be considered complete, what are the connections that we need to have, and then what are the parts, the areas that we need to explore and develop?
I think the first connection would be understanding that all of those components are connected. And as I spoke of before, for those of us recently joining us, it's all about energy. And although we may, as a society, over centuries, have learned how to compartmentalize various things, as you were talking about mind, and then maybe there's finances, and then maybe there's body, and then there's spiritual body, and then there's spirit itself. But all of those things are energy, and energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It just transforms. So with that being said, it's all connected, and it's up to us whether we want to maintain that state of flow. So for instance, Yoftahe, you've heard another show that I've done before talking about the connection with consciousness and finances. And so that is an example of two very big energy sources being connected. And for a lot of us, we reach a state of equilibrium or equanimity and balance once things are connected. It's when we put them in various silos or buckets or compartmentalize when we tend to be off balance.
I like that. We'll come back to the balance and the off balance one. So for those who are joining and watching, this is the Yoftahe Show. We are live on YouTube and Facebook Live. Make sure to invite friends and family so that they can be enlightened and learn and ask questions with the Yoftahe Show in this hour. So Jerry, let me come to you. What question would you have for Leneé?
Yeah, so my question is a little different. I'm gonna take a turn on this one.
Yeah,
no, you're fine.
I love it.
But I just wanted to ask, I know, earlier you kind of talked a little bit about your background and kind of what you do now. You're CEO, you have your own business. I believe you're getting your PhD. So you have your own podcast. I mean, the list goes on and on of amazing, success that you're doing right now. And you're also a mother of a teenager. And I know balancing all of that could be extremely difficult, especially when we live in a society that tries to tell us as a woman, you can't have it all. But from what I'm hearing from you, it kind of seems like you're on top of it and you can really do it all. And for us as, the next generation, for the youth, it's extremely empowering. So I really want to know, just listening to you, I can see just the balance and the peace and just the warmth in your voice as well. So how do you find that balance to be successful in all aspects of your life and kind of just make it all work as a woman in 2021?
Oh, that is
amazing question.
Definitely an amazing question. First of all, you're on your way, my young sister. You are. You definitely are. Limitless. And
she is.
Is on her way. And I'll say that because I'm saying that because I'm here for you. And I mean that. And we'll keep in touch.
Yes.
And so I'll say this as well. Someone told me once that you can have it all, just not all at once. And the reality is, I'd love to tell you that I juggle all the balls and plates in the air perfectly every day. But I think we need to talk about more the reality of that. I do not. So it's good that it appears that way. But also the downside of that is that it isn't realistic at all. Something suffers. Right now, I think I just heard my daughter slam the microwave from heating up something in the microwave. As a result, we're not having dinner together. But it's a small, I guess, price to pay for being here. And then we have balance and we'll make up for the time tomorrow, And so that's one example, as well as when I think about going back to grad school, I waited 20 years to go back to graduate school. And that is something that I had to wait on. Earlier in my career, I spent 15 years in corporate America. the resources just were not there to return back to school. So now I tell my classmates, my cohorts, that for me, grad school isn't just being here. It was an accomplishment, something, a lifelong goal that I wanted for over 20 years. And so it means everything, every book, every paper, every piece of research for me is a huge gift and, an accomplishment. So that's the school part. I treat it like it's a gift that I've worked my entire life to achieve, and it really is. And then with my podcast, we are on hiatus for a bit. My co-host actually just has his first child, and we laughed and we were joking because now that he's the dad of a newborn baby, he'll text me and say parenting is real. And the reality is it is, but we're on hiatus and then we'll film for season 2 this summer. And so you find ways to do things. And I will say this, I would love to talk with you more offline about detailed ways to balance and to make sure that you're coming home back to yourself and listening to your needs, your mind, body, and spiritual needs, making sure that you have balance from a social perspective. And then quite honestly, it is different in 2021. It is different. So to answer your question, it is a delicate dance. It is. But I really do believe you can have it all, just maybe not all at once. Yeah. So I waited a while. I had my daughter at 31. I was married for 17 years. So all of these things are just milestones along the trajectory. And I said I was married because I'm divorced now. But, all things are still energy and opportunities, right? And lessons as well. Yeah. But there's no shame in telling your story. Everyone has a story. And I guarantee you that your story inspires someone else. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That was a beautiful question, Jerry.
Wow.
So let me build on that and then ask you, Leneé, because especially stories, how you can use your stories to build on, to share with others, because you are unique as Leneé. Not everybody, there's not another Leneé in the world. So your story can be something someone else needs to hear to be inspired or to learn from, because something that you have gone through. So I love storytellings and I love building on stories. So how do you use your story, your life, to be able to inspire others? So what are the steps, or what do you use?
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the ways is writing. So I actually ultimately, and I'm sure both of you can appreciate this, Eliajah and Jerry, my first year of college was a communication journalism major, but my passion was dance. So I changed my major and ended up graduating with a bachelor's in dance. Later, many years later, now I'm writing a senior columnist for the Los Angeles Tribune. And so knowing that there's an innate passion inside of you and that we're not one-dimensional is very important as well. And so a part of me sharing my story was a way to get back into writing and to become a columnist for a paper. So I believe that we all have a story. And one of the ways that I tell my story is through writing. And because we're independent journalism, I can write from the heart and as my spirit moves me, as well as on the podcast. I often have guests that have stories that are very unique as well. And for me, allowing others to share their story and giving them a platform is a way to share my own story. I believe that's a strength. Uplifting others is definitely a gift. Yeah.
Thank you. For those who are asking, who are joining us, this is the Yoftahe Show, live on YouTube and Facebook. This is where the Use Mindset series, where you can come and ask a question from successful people, what it takes to be successful, what struggles they have gone through, and what steps and then lessons that they can take from successful people in order to change their life, their mindset, and build on that. So thank you for joining us. So Eliajah, let me come to you. What would be your question for Leneé?
So my question is that most college graduates just when they graduate college, oftentimes they don't feel truly prepared for the world.
Mm-hmm.
So what is something that you can recommend as the most important thing that we focus on as people who are in the last semester or just graduated?
That's a great question. And congratulations again. Is it that you're graduating this semester? Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, first off, I would recommend that you celebrate your wins because that's a huge accomplishment. And I also think it's important to know that even grown-ups that maybe twice your age may still be figuring it all out. So when you say being prepared for the world, what does that mean to you? And I know I'm asking a question.
Being able to, well, I mean, basically just being able to, I don't want to say find a good job, but like find a good job, being able to make it on your own, I guess. And I don't mean make $1 million.
Mhm.
I just mean being able to afford a decent place,
Mhm.
you know, have a decent family,
Mhm.
be able to put basic groceries on the table, things like that.
I can understand that. And I feel like part of my purpose here today is to challenge you to realize that things are limitless. You are limitless. And quite honestly, if you want decent,
Well, I mean,
you can have decent.
obviously, I'm gonna reach for,
Right.
but
Well, no,
I'm
that's
thinking realistically.
yeah, no, that's important. Well, but the thing is, we chart our own reality. And so this is something that I think that our school system, and I'm a fan of educators, and also, as I mentioned, am a teaching fellow and adjunct professor myself.
Mhm.
But this is something that I think our education really does not empower students to think of in a broader, more holistic way. And that is, really, really reaching for the stars. And some people may say, "Oh, this is a pie in the sky, not a good way to show kids how to move forward after college." Well, I say, why not? Because what you said, not necessarily $1 million. Words are powerful. Words are powerful. So I challenge you, young king, to think broader. And that is the advice I give to those graduating from college, because it's a scary world out there. But if you move in fear, it could potentially block all of the greatness coming your way. Yeah. Like,
Right.
think about the courage you had to talk to the people treating you in the emergency room. Well, my advice to you would be to maybe go back and network with some of the hospital staff and some of the hospital administration. Maybe leave your resume with them. Maybe even call and ask to speak with the director of administration for the hospital, and think of things in a broad, expansive, limitless way. That would be my advice, because I know how scary it can be. Yeah, especially being a fine arts major at the time. It's kind of like, what am I going to do with this? Yeah, but at the time, but now I know that um, it was definitely a part of my path. Definitely a part of my path. Yeah, so congratulations, and my advice again, just to answer the question, is reach for the stars. Reach for the
Okay.
stars, because when you're reaching for the stars, the only place to go is up.
Right.
Versus when you're marginalizing yourself, you're literally putting a concrete ceiling on your head. So maybe you're thinking, oh, I may not want to go for this job. Apply for it anyway. Apply for it anyway.
Right.
Start that
Okay.
business anyway. Yeah, start that business. Apply for it anyway. Like who sources EMTs? Is there a business that staffs EMTs? Are there
Well,
other?
there are various ambulance companies.
Okay. Who created
It's
that?
not only.
Yeah. What I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody had to create it. The laptops or phones we're on right now, somebody created it. You can too.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. Actually, this is asking the question I wanted to ask was what you just said, because it goes in directly to what you just talked about. Thank you, Adis, for being here. It leads in to what you just said, because sometimes you may say, what's my limit? I mean, Eliajah talked about not making $1 million. That's already, he blocked himself from thinking that high. So if I can read Adis' question, can you tell us a little bit about how one identifies and remove their personal success blocker?
Yeah.
Thank you, Adis, for asking this question.
Thank you, beautiful IDs. I appreciate that. I think literally recognizing that it is a blocker, recognizing your limiting beliefs, and doing things to help alleviate those limiting beliefs and move through them. Maybe not around them, but directly through them. And the reason I say through them, as a hypnosis practitioner and as someone that helps people lift limiting beliefs all the time, it's important to realize that sometimes we have to feel those uncomfortable feelings before we get to our breakthrough, before we get to our healing. And it's interesting because that was a great example that was allowed in that moment to show that what we'll do is we'll shift the energy. And rather than saying, and Eliajah, I'm not picking on you, I just think that that's a great, I can't wait till you make your first million, because then we can say this was kind of a real life case study example of how right now we're lifting that limiting belief. And you're not going to have just a decent family. You're going to have an amazing family. And so, Adis, to answer your question, beautiful, really thinking about some of the conditioning that we grow up hearing or seeing or speaking, or maybe hearing others say, and recognizing that those aren't your baggage. That isn't your baggage to carry. It's something that you may have picked up. It's something that you may have been conditioned to believe, but it isn't yours. And that awareness is the first step. So to answer the question, it's always awareness, radical awareness and acceptance, because with that radical awareness and acceptance, we can move through it. Now, if we're unaware and don't realize that it's blocking us, then it's difficult to move through. But awareness is definitely key. And then there's so many tools once you reach that awareness to help you move through.
Thank you. I'm going to build on that. For those who are watching, this is the Yoftahe Show. We are live on YouTube and Facebook channel. Please make sure to share, invite, and keep asking your question. Thank you, Adis, for asking those questions. We'll be getting through it. So, Leneé, coming back to you, what you just said to build on it, because I love the way you just described it, is sometimes what we hear, what we read, who we surround about, unfortunately, we try to conform and we think like that's where we can be because who we are surrounding. So how do you change your surrounding? How do you change your thinking to be able to get out? Because first you have to realize there is a block.
Right.
Once you do that, you have the action to be able to be surrounded from people who say, yes, we can. Limitless. So how do you change that mindset? How do you jump into that possibility once you realize there is a blocker?
Absolutely. I'm getting just a little bit of feedback from you, Yoftahe. Yeah, it's just breaking a little bit. And I think I got the entire question, but if I leave out a part of the answer, it may have meant that I missed it. So I'm going to answer what I heard. What
Do you
I
want me to repeat it? I wasn't sure.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's okay. I'm pretty sure I got it. But if there's anything follow up, we can just flow with it and
Sure.
flow, okay? And so I would say that the universe leaves clues. And if we are not where we want to be, then usually it's due to a limiting belief or a block or a blocker. And so I think that really tapping into and taking an inventory of where you are in life, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a socioeconomic or financial inventory. It could be in relationships. It could be in school. It could be in just how you're feeling on a daily basis. It could be physically. And so I like to tell my clients that if you're not exactly where you feel you'd like to be, and if you aren't feeling good every day, then there may be some limiting beliefs and blocks. So, with that being said, there are tools to alleviate those blocks. One resource that I like to use is meditation. And so I try to meditate every day. There may be a day here and there that I miss, but for the most part, meditation and finding a place of coming home inward and connecting with spirit, God is a tool that helps me literally lift energies that aren't mine. Because as an empath, I pick up others' energies. And you're nodding. Sherry, is it the same? Okay, I can feel that. What about you, Eliajah?
Same.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I can tell. Mhm.
Yeah, I figured at the beginning, I was like, oh, she has to be. She has to be. When you're
Yeah,
Yep.
we
you
connect
picked it
together.
up.
We empaths, yeah. It's probably why I knew to Elijah and I kind of went on that path. And then immediately with you, Jerry, I could feel that. No offense, Yoftahe. Yoftahe.
I am
We're just
I am here for them. This is their program. This is their time.
Yeah, yeah, no, so that's really cool. But here's the cool thing also. Yes, I use meditation as a tool, and yes, I understand this now. But when I was your age, I did not. So I think you guys are so much more ahead of the game and light years ahead of probably where our generation was because I didn't recognize. I always thought I was too sensitive. Too sensitive. Everyone would always say because I would cry all the time because I was overwhelmed. Does that resonate with
Yep.
either of you or both of you? I would be overwhelmed with these feelings and this energy. Most of the time, it wasn't even mine. And a lot of times, it's picking up things either before people recognize they feel them, or maybe they're feeling them and they're not wanting to acknowledging them. But we carry a lot for a lot of people. It may even be something ancestral, something that was passed through our DNA. And so that's important to recognize too. So not to get too woo-woo or deep, but for the most part, I have to say that for empaths, it is so important to really, really have some time to yourself to come back home, to literally release things that aren't yours, and also to check in to make sure that you're not carrying something of somebody else's. But I just commend you both for being able to answer the question and recognize that and be so in tune at your age. I mean, it's huge. It's huge. It's really great. Yeah.
That's good. I'll
Mhm.
come back to you. So, Jerry, if you can ask another question for Leneé.
I don't know. I'm enjoying hearing all of this, and yeah, and we talked about the like
So
yeah, you know what? COVID actually really helped me understand those moments that I need to myself. That quarantine really like I felt like I was rejoiced and kind of like I was able to just marinate in my thoughts and really isolate kind of what was happening around me. So, you know, in some way was also doing some healing for me. So just wanted to point that out. Yeah, but I really agree with the self-awareness as well. I think that is a big thing that a lot of us youth really need to understand. Sorry if you guys hear noises. Need to understand, acknowledge the awareness, and not just be aware, but also, act on it, be able to change it, and kind of, be able to really take the proper techniques, or I know there was some stuff that you said there's steps after that. So I think it's important to acknowledge that as well. But just wanted to ask, I know you talked about you majoring in fine arts and kind of like communication journalism. So in our community, in the Ethiopian community, those are what you call risky majors, and I would say in the Black culture as well. I was blessed to have parents who were really like, they could see, I guess, the way I communicated, just my energy in how much I loved it. So they were willing to kind of, okay, but for other friends that I have, that it's not an option. It's, doctor, engineer, nurse, the traditional ones that we hear. So what would you recommend for those youth who are struggling to really chase their dreams, kind of go for those stars that you were talking about, but their parents might have that traditional mindset where they're saying, be safe, choose the safe route, and take, these traditional majors? What would you advise them?
I would say, yeah, that's a tough one, especially when your parents are paying for your education.
Correct.
And there's no qualms there. My parents paid for my undergraduate education as well, and I never will forget the conversation I had with my dad when I changed my major from communications to dance.
Yeah.
And I was asked, what happens if you fall and break your leg? Well, that's encouraging. Not. But I would say that I did it anyway. And it was a point of contention. So I don't recommend that. Not recommending people go against, what their family desires. However, it is important to pave your own way. It is. And sometimes the road less traveled is the right one. I understand very much. I feel like my mother and father now have never been more proud of me now in my 40s getting a doctorate. Now, it's kind of like a long field dream for them as well. But and I'm kind of joking, but serious at the same time. Because there are certain hard subjects and certain soft skills. The thing that I know for sure is that from a mental perspective, mental health and emotional intelligence, really, really following your heart is important, because I wish I would have done it sooner. I mean, I don't regret the 15 years I did spend in corporate America. So, I kind of came back to a career that I thought made them happy that I could fit in the box. And then with MS, I was feeling like, well, maybe a movement career really isn't the smartest thing. So I questioned all the time. I really did. So the advice I would give to those friends is to do what feels right for you. It may not be easy, but do what feels right for you. And ultimately, what I found with the friends that were struggling with that, so to speak, is that there was a happy balance. Like maybe rather than becoming an MD, a friend may become a chiropractor and now takes a more holistic approach to medicine. Or, because sometimes we're in a society that teaches, either or. And I like to say comma and. There's always and. There's more. And. Not either or. I have a mentor that told me, you get to have it all. And I said that earlier. This is a different mentor. So, and having those people, it's great that they can talk to you, Jerry, those friends, because you're able to set the example for them that they're able to fulfill their dreams and their passions. Because the reality is, there are a lot of miserable people that went a very safe career route and now are in midlife changing their careers.
Yeah.
Or people that spent many unhappy years in doing something that they were just miserable every single day doing. And unfortunately, sometimes that's just the choice that we make. So I encourage them to find a balance, to listen to their hearts, and just find their path, find their way. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I think that will really help a lot of youth. It's a big
Yeah. Yeah. I may have a lot of calls from parents saying that I'm leading them astray.
No, you answered it. You stayed with the parents as well. You helped.
Yeah. There's a balance. There's a balance, and everyone has to do what's best for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, Jerry, what you brought up is one of the main reasons I wanted to start this series. Because I'm one of those parents who wanted to do traditional things and then restricting or whatever. And then sometimes he's shaking his head, and then I wanted us to get out a little bit of that, call it mindset, Ethiopian Eritrean mindset that we teach our kids, and then bringing in someone like Leneé for you guys to have like a more balanced information. So you asked exactly the right question, why this series is created, so that we can challenge someone like me and then go back and then other parents. We will have just a parents show also, and then you guys talking to us, letting us know what we need to listen. So I've been telling that to my son too. So that was the right question. The main purpose of this show is what it is, so that the youth can also learn outside that community, so that you don't just get to hear the same thing that we grew up with. I can only share what I know. Then bringing someone like Leneé that expand that knowledge, that for all of you can have information. So I thank you for being that, and then thank you for asking that question. So for those watching, this is the Yoftahe Show. We are live on YouTube channel and Facebook Live. Please make sure to like and share and join us for tonight. So Eliajah, let me come to you. What would be your question for Leneé?
So my question is, how would you, I know this isn't a simple answer, but how would you find a balance? Because you see a lot of people who either just are sleeping all day, they don't do anything, and they just don't do anything. But then on the other side, you see people who are just constantly working. They don't have time for anything else, just work, and then they eventually just have a problem with relationships and all the other things. So how would you find that balance?
That's an excellent question.
Great question.
That is a wonderful question. And it is a great question because we do live in a society that go, up and at 'em, come on, and the reality is some days our bodies, minds, and spirits really do need to lay down all day. Maybe not sleep all day and not be a productive contributor to society every day, but some days we really do need that rejuvenation. Also, what you were describing, Eliajah, is very profound. It's burnout, ultimately. Burnout. And usually until we hit that brick wall and burn out, we are unaware that we were doing way too much. So unfortunately, sometimes finding that balance means coming to a place of burnout for a lot of us. However, I encourage everyone to really go inward. Once again, I will continue to say that. I hope I don't sound like a broken record, but it really is important to go inward and take an inventory and become self-aware of what you need. And every single day, ask yourself what you need. And if you really do need to stay in bed all day, then maybe there's a deeper issue like depression or a condition that hasn't been diagnosed. But if you're feeling the need to really go all the time, that can also be a sign that there are some things that you're not dealing with internally that you're really avoiding. And avoidance is real as well. So I would encourage people to take time to take inventory and become self-aware of their needs at all times. even multiple times during the day. Yeah.
That's good. That was an excellent
That's
question, Eliajah. So let me
Wow.
build on that, Renee, because
Yeah.
when you work with your clients, everybody comes into you at a different stage.
Right.
Some have already accomplished so many things. Some are just getting started, and some don't even know what they need to do. They're just trying, asking all those questions. So how do you evaluate and how do you work with those people to try to identify and the levels that they are at and then to get them to the next level? So how do you identify, how do you work it out?
Absolutely. Yoftahe, that's a great question as well. Jerry and Eliajah have been really asking some great ones, but that one's a good one. And what I do, because I work intuitively and as an empath, it has become a superpower in a sense that there are a certain number of points that I kind of evaluate and listen. Active listening is so important. Active listening. And not necessarily listening to respond, but listening to listen. And we have 2 ears and one mouth for a reason. And so I start by listening because the reality is a lot of people in the world really don't have objective listeners in their lives. They have opinionated people or people that may want to help or fix, but actually listening and taking everything in that someone says, then taking a breath and then providing feedback or assistance if it's needed and warranted is important. So so I work with clients from Olympic athletes to stay-at-home moms. I have a few elderly clients. I work with corporate clients as well. And just the gamut. Everyone has a story, as we were saying earlier, and everyone is at a different place in their lives. So it's important to listen. And then also in working with clients, I meet them where they are. Because then hand in hand, we can create a path. Yeah.
I like that. When you say meet them where they are, that's the only way you can help anybody, because if you're 10 miles away from them, you cannot reach them. So you have to be able to reach, you have to be close enough to understand where you need to get started before you go anywhere. Because this is the use mindset, I'm going to ask some question and then you can jump in.
Yeah, sure.
So at this stage, some of them may think, they look at success and they said, oh, I have to be 40 to get A, B, C, D. And they're forgetting that they need to get started right now at 21, 24, 20. There are steps that they have to get right now before they can say at 30, I could be a millionaire. Things like that. So at 21, I think the 20s between for Eliajah and Jerry, it's like this is a beautiful age where you can have the world, you can conquer it if you get started in the right step. So what would be for those kids, because just Eliajah said it also earlier, you're coming from the traditional colleges, you're learning only textbook and certain things, but the business world is not taught that much. And how to be successful is not that much. For me, I always talk, in order to be successful in this world, you have to have communication and sales to be able to understand, because everything is about selling and then everything is about how you can communicate your mind and the ideas that you have. So for you, for the youth that you see here, and then for those who are watching, they are at the prime age that they can take advantage of it. So what would you say when they should get started, or how they should honor and capture this beautiful age that they are in?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, first off, as we were saying earlier, or as I mentioned earlier, dreaming big, visualizing, seeing yourself, removing limiting beliefs. If you need help doing so, enlisting a mentor or professional. Also, I recommend writing it down, journaling. I have journals from, I won't say what year, but from when I was your age. And it's amazing to look back at those journals and to see where I was then and to see all of the twists and turns through there. So there's really no way to know for sure the trajectory, but we can chart our path that we desire. And so I say the steps are to write and strategize. It's really important to have a strategy, a game plan, if you will. It's really important to have a game plan. You know, the airplane, the pilot has a flight path, but he has to follow the steps, or she has to follow the steps to get there. And so I say start now, start today, start tonight, writing down what you see and how you see yourself. Eliajah, that family that you were talking about, that job you were talking about, what does it look like in your head? Write it down. Write it down. And then you can chart a path and the steps on how to get there. Yeah.
That's good. Before I ask any other question, I want to give Jerry, do you have any other question that you want to ask?
I mean, I just took so many turns and directions, and I'm just trying to embrace it all and really take note. And I really love that you said to write it down. I found that I write letters to myself, and I'll often open them when I need to. So I'll write a letter, when I'm feeling really challenged in life, and it's like kind of like a message to myself, and to kind of look back on it. And so those really help. And there is power in writing it down, like vision boards and things of that sort really help. So I really love that you said that.
Yeah.
But my question for you is, for people like the youth, I think the new generation is really into like creating our own things, not going for the traditional I don't know, almost corporate world. You want to say you want to be the one to really be a business owner. You want to start your own company. You want to be a franchise. You really want to go for it all. And I know that you started your own company, and I know, it is extremely competitive. It is scary to start it off at the beginning. So how was that challenge? Like, how did you overcome those, those thoughts that were kind of going through it at the beginning, really challenging yourself? Like, what was that process like?
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about one limiting belief that is called imposter syndrome. And imposter syndrome is really deep concept, and that it really stems from a feeling of unworthiness. And it's one of those things that we don't realize as a child, as a baby, that we cannot do something until someone tells us.
Correct.
And so I think a certain amount of naivete for me was helpful in that comparison can be the thief of joy. That's a quote. And I tend to have blinders on with what others are doing, because you mentioned a lot of competition. Perhaps there is, I don't know, because we're not the same. And so what I try to do, and this is something I can imagine you all's generation really struggle with, because there is so much comparison in the age of social media. And I want to just go, before I go back to imposter syndrome, I want to go back into reiterating the fact that when you see someone on social media, you are seeing a snapshot of their lives. You all are brilliant young folks. I know that you know this already, but for the listeners and for viewers and everyone out there, just remember you are seeing a snapshot of what's put out there. The highlights, a highlight reel. And so it's important to remember that comparison can be the thief of joy. And it's important to remember that you are charting your individual, unique path that God and the universe have for you. And that sometimes jumping and believing that there will be a net to catch you is the way to go. And so you asked how my experience was. That's what it was like. It was like jumping. And sometimes there was a big hole in the net and I almost fell through. But then other times, there was a nice cushion of a net, and you keep floating and keep swimming remember, well, maybe you all don't remember. I was going to quote a Disney character, Dory. Yeah, just keep swimming. Okay, so you do remember. Good.
We're not that much younger. Don't worry. We
Yeah, so as Dory says, just keep swimming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved it. Thank
I
you.
like that. Just keep swimming, Dory. So reference that. Eliajah, any other question do you want to ask?
I'm just trying to focus on what you're saying so far. I don't have any questions.
That's true. That's good. So I want to build on that one, with what you just said, because listening, learning is one thing, but at the same time, just jumping in and trying it. Sometimes you're the one stopping yourself so many times, saying you hear the no's, especially who's around you is telling you, no, don't do that. I tried it and I failed. And then all they can do is teach you only what they experienced.
Right.
So at the end of the day, we're going to have to listen to the right people. And then there's always a saying, if you're not willing to trade their life with the other person, whoever is giving you the advice, you don't need to take their advice. You can appreciate and then move on. So we have to pick the right mentors. You mentioned a lot about mentorship. So how do you pick the right mentor in order for you to be able to advance your life? How do you pick the right mentor?
Well, you can tell a lot by a person's success, about a person's success and their road to success, whatever success means to and for you, by the 5 closest people around them. I'll say that again. Taking inventory of the 5 closest people around you in your inner circle. I call them my spiritual board of directors. And these are people that tell you the truth, even when you may not want to hear it. They're people that you also question, because again, as Yoftahe just said, it may be from their perspective. But constantly taking inventory of who is in your front row, and not everyone deserves to be there. And making sure that they have your best interests at heart, and then also adding value. You know, some people say things like unconditional love and all of this. You know, parents usually have unconditional love for their children. However, the reality is most relationships are conditional. They really are, you know, based on reciprocity. They're based on mutual value that you add to each other's lives. And I say, if someone isn't oops, I think I may have been muted. If someone isn't adding value to your life and you don't feel uplifted, then it's time to reevaluate their place in your life. And value isn't monetary value necessarily. It could be spiritual value. It could be encouragement. It could be resources. It could be study skills, or, you know, helping with something that they know that you want to achieve. But adding value and making more deposits than withdrawals is key. It's key. And so what I found is, when you said picking mentors, by naturally taking inventory of the closest people around me, making sure they're adding value and uplifting. It's that old adage, 6 degrees of separation. It's usually through that person that I meet a mentor, through that person I meet a mentor, or perhaps a mentor finds me, or perhaps I place myself in a position that allows me to connect with mentors. I'm a firm advocate of LinkedIn. I think it's a valuable tool. I think it's an unsung hero in networking. And I really encourage any young professional, or even someone who may not have entered the professional world yet, to really work LinkedIn, really find a really good list of connections and a network there, and foster those connections. So another thing, to answer your question, Yoftahe, is that a lot of times my mentors didn't start out as mentors. They simply started out as acquaintances. And then through fostering that relationship, because usually by the time you need to ask for a favor, letter of recommendation, some advice, that's usually too late to foster the relationship. You have to check in with the person and communicate and make sure that you're building a relationship so that then when an opportunity presents itself, either way, then either they think of you or you think of them to come to them for advice and guidance. Yeah.
That's good. I'm going to ask one more question to Leneé, and then I'll come back to Jerry and Eliajah and ask you, what did you learn from today's show and what do you take? So just think about that while I ask it. So for Leneé, I mean, networking is the biggest thing for me. You and I met in a clubhouse, and here we are learning from each other. So there's always that networking part, maybe young people sometimes don't really understand, and then the value that we take in. So I want to build a little bit more because you mentioned a lot of it, but the power of networking and then asking the right questions. Sometimes just starting that conversation, because if you do not express yourself, people are not mind readers. So I will always make sure have the networking, and then making sure to share what you're looking for and what value you're bringing to it. So if you can build a little bit on networking, the importance of it, what it takes, so that for people to understand a little bit more. Before you answer it, this is the Yoftahe show. We are live on YouTube channel and Facebook Live. Please make sure to like and share and join us for this amazing evening. So let me come back to you, Leneé.
Absolutely. Networking is so important. It really is. And I'd like to speak from an empath's perspective to networking, because I think that's very important for this show. What I find out as an empath, only authentic connections are where I thrive. Anything else is draining. And especially as an ambivert or extroverted introvert, I find that networking events and functions with groups of people, I literally need to go in and charge my batteries. As you were saying, Jerry, earlier, the pandemic quarantine helped you to recharge and heal, because networking can be so draining for some of us that pick up other energies from other people. And so what I encourage, especially for empaths and ambiverts, is to really focus on those one-on-one relationships. So if you meet someone, let's say you're in a social setting or some kind of professional organization or group, usually I tend to pick 2 to 3 people that I really connect with, maybe fellow empaths or extroverted introverts, and then maybe exchange information with them and then follow up. Because what I found is a lot of times younger people tend to expect the more experienced person to follow up, when the reality is we've been sitting there before. We've sat where you're sitting before, and it's not in a way of being condescending or not in a way giving any credence to your wisdom and life experience, because definitely honor and respect you as young human beings for that. But however, I found if you're going to ask somebody to take some time out of their schedule to connect with you, be sure that it's done in a very professional and respectful way. And I know the two of you, this is not the case for either of you. I know already that you handle these situations and networking scenarios beautifully. But just for anyone who's looking or listening that may not have had this training or teaching before in interpersonal relationships, especially in a professional setting, I just encourage people to really, really form quality relationships and networking possibilities over quantity. Because in this age of social media, I find, and also, Yoftahe, it's funny that you mentioned Clubhouse. They're huge numbers. They're thousands of people to network with. But I find that quality networking over quantity is of the utmost importance. It really is. Yeah.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
So we are almost arriving at the end of the show. So Jerry and Eliajah, I'm going to ask you a similar question. What did you get so far from this? You can just summarize it a little bit.
Sure.
Jerry.
Sure. Okay. What did I get from this, guys? This was so much information. I feel like I have to go back and watch the entire interview again because there's a lot of hidden gems that you were kind of throwing our way that we really could not catch it all. Like, it was a lot of good information that we might be taking for granted. So we really appreciate all of the knowledge you're kind of throwing our way. But I think for me, what I really took from this conversation is to not put so much pressure on myself. I think as the youth, and when Eliajah was talking about, we're not really taught how to kind of get back into society. I put a lot of pressure on myself. As a recent graduate, I know exactly what Eliajah's talking about. And as soon as you graduate, the pressure is going to be on because we're really just trying to figure it out. But something that Leneé, that you mentioned, is really just understanding that it happens in its own time, but we need to just be prepared. We need to just not sit back and kind of, okay, it's going to happen, but really try to manifest it, try to write it down and work towards it and put it out there. And I think once we do that process and we surround ourselves with the people that are going to get us there and have the right mindset, I think it will all kind of fall into place. Just from hearing your story, hearing how at peace you are with the world and kind of your whole story, I think that's the one thing that I could really pick up on, is that it will all work itself out. I just need to remove that pressure just as long as I'm putting in the work. So yeah, that was a lot of information. And thank you, Leneé, so much for really just embracing us with your presence and all of the information that you have for us.
Oh my goodness.
I like that. So
Wow.
you already learned a lot from it. So I do appreciate that, because that's the whole goal. So
Wow.
Eliajah, what did you take from this?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Leneé. I definitely learned a lot. But obviously the most important thing that I took away from this is to reach for the stars and to find people that will help me do so.
Mm-hmm.
Something interesting though is that, I mean, my dad and I are two completely opposite people, where he's the most extroverted person you'll ever meet. I, on the other hand, am a lot more to myself, to say the least. But his method of networking is he likes to meet a lot of people very quickly. So that's all that I have seen. I don't know a lot of people who do this networking kind of thing. But now that I've heard your perspective, where you can, hone in on one person, that's a method that I will be taking in myself, and I think that's gonna help me a lot more. So I definitely figured that's definitely a method that's gonna help me. So I thank you for that.
This makes me so happy to hear both of you, Eliajah and Jerry. Just, you get it. And, I feel so just blessed to witness you all at this stage in your life. And I feel so much joy that our future is in great hands.
Amen.
I really do. And this is what I wish. I'm so glad this show is being produced, Yoftahe. Because this is what we need to see more of. These are the stories. And I just want you both to know that I'm so proud of you both. And I cannot wait to see what you accomplish and do. And I'm here for you, a part of your spiritual board of directors. And I feel connected to you. And yes, find your way, find your path. And it is completely beautiful to network and flow and move any way that you feel the need to. It's completely okay.
Thank you. I'm complete too. I love both of them, what they took out of it, because at the end of the day, like you said earlier, it's just finding that path, just like you talked about the pilot, and then following that path. It's
Yeah.
not someone else's. And as parents, we have the tendency, I know, to say, do this, do that, but just finding your own, and I'm going to be there to support you. So that's why this show was created, to make sure that you learn from other people and find that one thing that works for you to make it happen. So Jerry and Eliajah, I greatly appreciate the questions that you had and the insight that you're taking. So it has been definitely a blessing. And Leneé, just like both of them have said it, it's been a blessing. And I can see our journey crossing again to make sure that I can learn a lot from you. So for the people who have not listened maybe at the beginning, so if we can talk a little bit what you do, and then for anybody who wants to connect with you, how do they reach you? So if you can tell us a little bit more about those.
Absolutely. My company is called Holistic Performance Center. I am on social media platforms, Instagram at Holistic Performance Center, Facebook, Holistic Performance Center, Clubhouse at Holistic Performance, and a number of other places. My website is holisticperformancecenter.com. My podcast, Mindful Business Renegades, feel free to listen to season 1. It's up now. That can be found on Spotify, on iHeartRadio, or on Apple Podcasts. And my column is called Optimal Performance in the Los Angeles Tribune. And there are articles out that have been published over the last year as well. And I also wanted to say that, you know, this has just been such a gift and a blessing for me, just to witness you all blossom and flourish. And I am honored to have been able to impart anything on your lives. You both are brilliant, and I'm just so excited. And a little bit about my business. I am an integrative sports psychology specialist and somatic movement therapist. That's a mouthful. I'm a hypnosis practitioner, guided meditation facilitator, and corporate wellness expert. So a lot of boxes checked there, but feel free to look me up, and I'd love to serve as a resource for you guys at any given time.
Okay, so I always ask this question for my guests, and I'm going to ask you, Leneé. So before we end it, what do you dream about, and then what is it looking about the challenges that you see, or that you want to change the world? What connects you, and say, what would be Leneé's impact if I take you 5 years, 10 years from now? If you have to map that out, if there are things that we want to say, this is what Leneé did, what would you like that to be?
You know, Yoftahe, you've provided a platform for that tonight. I dream about leaving a legacy for future generations. My daughter getting and articulating what Eliajah and Jerry just so beautifully said. The future is in excellent hands. I dream about leaving the world a better place, having people be able to connect mind, body, and spirit, and then tap their ultimate optimal potential and reach their highest, best selves. That is what I dream about. Not to mention living on a beach and teaching. So one day we do this show, I'm going to be on a beach doing it live. Yeah, but technology allows for that. So that's a dream.
I like that. That's why we came across, like I said, I don't take anything for coincidence. There is a reason why you and I met, and then to have to influence also the kids. And then even for my kids, sometimes I say what I say as a parent might be different, and they may not even listen to it. When they hear it from another perspective, they can learn more about it. So that's definitely, I appreciate, and it's an honor having Eliajah and Jerry here. That's the same impact that I'm looking for, just impacting the youth, what we can change, because they are the future, and making sure that we don't give them what I call sometimes our garbage, but give them also what challenges that could be. But they are successful in taking off that ceiling that any of us may have had growing up. So this has been
They're limitless.
Limitless, all the potential that they have, and then we want them to do much better. And then this is the age to get started. And I always say, I wish I learned and I heard these words when I was 21. I wish I had those things. So you guys had that opportunity where you don't have to be 30 and said, I wish I did A, B, C, D, or learn this. This is your time to capture and conquer the world. Limitless. I love that word.
Yeah.
So this is the Yoftahe show. It has been an amazing night. We learned so much. Like Jerry said, I have to go back and listen to it myself so that to take notes and then learn from it. It's an amazing for me to see the youth participate and ask questions and then take charge of their own future, because there are different mentors out there, different books, different podcasts, different places that we learn, and we all learn in a different way. So this is just that one way to connect our soul, our mind, and become complete, and then find that one path like Eliajah talked about earlier, what works, and hone it down to that one specific thing. So it's been an amazing night. Before we end, I give you back again, Leneé, if there's anything we didn't discuss, if you want to summarize it, and if there is departing words that you want to share to the viewers and to the guests.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As Louise Hay said, where you are is exactly where you're supposed to be. Remember that. Remember that. And right now is so delicious. It is. It's so.
Amen.
Amen.
To that. So once again, thank you all. Leneé, we'll talk again. Jerry and Eliajah will connect again. Definitely, it's an honor to have you all in here. For the people who watched, this is the Yoftahe show. Please make sure to share, comment, and be grateful. And then I'll also be posting Leneé's information for others so that they can connect. I'll post her Instagram, Facebook notes in the link so that you can connect with this amazing woman. And then we have learned so much. It's a blessing. And then nothing is a coincidence. There is a reason that we are here. All I ask at the end of the day, we learned so much, we heard so much, but just take only one thing and implement it. Don't just be a consumer. Make sure to implement at least one thing that you learned from this, because sometimes we get overwhelmed listening so many information, and then it becomes overwhelming. But take one thing and then act on it, and then we will have a better life. So once again, for creating that better future, Jerry, Eliajah, and Leneé, I thank you again. This is the Yoftahe show. Saturday, I'll be bringing you a show on African ecology. The music part of it, understanding, will be more of a lighter conversation. So we'll meet again at 12 o'clock on Saturday on the Yoftahe show, Facebook and YouTube Live. So we'll connect again. Until we meet again, this is Yoftahe show. I say thank you for this amazing, beautiful night, and good night to all.
Good night.